Good morning, everyone at T3 Live. This is your editor-in-chief, John Darsie, here to bring you the morning call on what should be a slow Friday. I was just walking through the trading floor. Very sparse out there. I think a lot of traders are choosing to sit this day out, as when you get into late summer, late August, market volume can be very light. The tape can be thin and frustrating. So like I said, a lot of guys probably going to sit this one out. If you've had a good period, even if you haven't had a good period in the market, I think it's wise to keep your risk down on a day like this and keep it a little bit close to the vest, as some of the movement in the market can be a little bit whippy due to that thin volume. But we can go ahead and take a look at the chart of the S&P. We don't have too much time before the open here, so I'll make this one concise. Yesterday we had a nice bounce back in the S&P, but it'll be very important now to see whether we can reclaim the 50-day moving average, which is where we closed yesterday. As you can see, we have the 8 and 21-day moving averages curling down now, so providing a little bit of pressure on the market. Today we are near the flat line, a little bit positive. We're also boosted by some news, which I'll get into before the open. But interesting to see today. I wouldn't put too much stock in the price action. If we get a potent move, obviously price action is king, and that would be a big step for the market. But I expect to get a choppy session, and I wouldn't put too much stock in it. Even next week, you could get some choppy type of action, as a lot of people will probably take vacation then as well, and you could get low volume in the market overall. But pre-market, the big news, it just came out in the last 10 or 15 minutes, was that Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer is going to retire in 12 months. And so many people have been calling for this, for Microsoft to replace their management. The company's become a little bit of a dinosaur within the tech sector. They're not innovating. They're stubborn about splitting up parts of the company and things like that. And so this news for Microsoft is really bullish. And it's, poor Steve Ballmer, the guy announces he's going to retire. He's been a great servant to the company, but he announces he's going to retire, and it's up about 10% this morning. We'll take a look at the chart of Microsoft, and I'll note something interesting as well, is just randomly you had this big gap down on earnings from Microsoft, and you had a base here forming, which is pretty bearish. After you get a gap down, you don't get a trade into the gap, and you get a consolidation. But then suddenly, on these 2 days, you had a bunch of big September call buying, and you were sort of like, what's going on? Why are people buying aggressively calls in September for Microsoft? There's something fishy here, and I think we might have just got the answer for that. But I wouldn't make those type of accusations, but just something a little interesting to take note of that was fishy. But as you can see here, we got some bullish price action the last few days, even in Microsoft, leading up into this announcement. Then we'll take a look at the 5-minute to give you a picture of the pre-market. Look at that. The stock's up about 10% in the morning after that announcement, not showing any signs of pulling back. And frankly, I sort of agree with that price action. I think this is huge news for Microsoft. I think there's a lot of value in that stock that's currently locked up due to the stubbornness of management of a guy like Steve Ballmer. All you needed for a gap fill was that news, and we're opening up here. You look on the daily chart, it even provides you some perspective about how big this pre-market move is. We're up here filling this gap. You zoom out on Microsoft, you can see it has room up to these pivot highs here. The high of this is 36.43. I wouldn't be surprised to see us challenge that today. You go out even further on the monthly chart, big levels up here. The high from this pivot, 37.50. So you have plenty of room if you break that into some pivot areas for Microsoft. So something really to keep an eye on over the next few days, few weeks after that big announcement this morning. But we'll go into a few other tech names real quick. Apple yesterday got another tweet from Carl Icahn, who's he's risking sort of ruining his credibility a little bit and watering down his impact on social media if he keeps coming out with these tweets so frequently. The first one packed a big punch, but now he's sort of bordering on the line of insider information material, non-public information, when he's talking about communicating with Tim Cook from Apple about the size of a buyback. But that's neither here nor there. Yesterday's tweet didn't really do much for Apple. I think the whole Icahn story was already priced in. Apple's a little bit lethargic now after that big move. I think rest is healthy, though. I think you continue to see it. If you continue to see it consolidate up here, I think you could look for another entry to the long side. But recently, it's been looking a little bit heavy. I know there was a few traders that I know yesterday that were short prior to that NASDAQ outage, and there were some scary moments as the Icahn tweet came during the outage, and there was some inside market data during the outage that was potentially going to suggest that Apple was going to open significantly higher. So there was a few nervous moments on the trading floor there. But yesterday, that tweet sort of negated the downside action. But I think in general right now, Apple's a little bit lethargic after that big move. The 8-day moving average has caught up a little bit, but still I think it needs at least some time to rest before it goes again. But Facebook, really strong in the pre-market, and we'll look at that data in a second. But this is one that we talked about. We were really pounding the table on Facebook after the pullback into the 50% Fibonacci retracement level from the earnings gap and go. And I'll draw that in the chart in a second, but here we'll go ahead and draw it while I talk about it. But Facebook is one that really changed character with that gap and go to the upside. It's something I've talked about several times on these videos. You know, it was one that you couldn't trust to buy on, you know, multiple days up prior to that earnings gap and go. It was really would always crap out, and the moves were no commitment to the upside on Facebook. But I think everything changed with that earnings report and that gap and go. And now this is one that I feel really good about buying on dips. We talked about the 50% Fibonacci retracement level from where that earnings gap started, and that's where it held. That's the level that held on Facebook, and it's had a really nice methodical move up since then. And then this morning, pre-market, we'll take a look at the 5-minute. It's very strong, up above the $39 level. So you go back to the daily chart, you know, it's a nice little pre-market gain for Facebook. It's going to break above these pivots. I expect to see Facebook in the $40 area within the next week or so, couple weeks, as long as the market keeps its footing. It's a stock that I really believe in right now, and I think it's headed significantly higher. Tesla continues to be a rock star. This was highlighted as Mark Sperling's trade idea of the week on Monday, which is supposed to be an educational type product to give you some rationale about how we come up with trade ideas, but this one has played out really nicely based on our thesis there, as it had climbed back up above the 21-day or the 8-day moving average, and then it's gotten a nice bid. It was helped by that news that it got a 5-star plus crash safety rating from the U.S. government, one of the highest ratings they've ever given a car. You combine that with a 99 out of 100 rating on Consumer Reports, and Tesla is getting well reviewed, great marketing, great buzz around that company, and the people will continue to buy more and more of those cars. But as you can see, a nice igniting move yesterday. Only thing in the way now is all-time highs, 158.88. We'll take a look at where it is pre-market. A little bit down, but still for a swing trade, I don't think there's anything to make you run for the hills or anything like that. Tesla, really big winner, one that I really like and continue to like despite the lofty valuation and all that. On off the charts the last couple days, we've highlighted the casino stocks and some really nice setups there as you continue to see money rotate and patterns rotate. Take a look at MGM. Really nice breakout. There's some levels that people have been watching. There was long-term levels. We'll take a look at the weekly chart to show you that. As you can see here, a lot of people were watching that $15 level really closely based on this pivot from early 2012. We got a nice impressive break above that. And then recently we set up another upper level base and got a nice trade above that yesterday. So some really nice action in MGM. And Wynn is a little bit of a lower level pattern, not as strong quite as MGM relative to its chart, but yesterday it started to perk up to the upper end of its recent consolidation. So I think you could get some more upside action in Wynn as it's above all key moving averages and all that, and got a nice boost from the 8-day yesterday. So some really nice action in the casinos. But I'll go ahead and wrap it up this morning with that as we're headed near the open now. But like I said, should be a low volume type of session. Microsoft had that news. I bet a lot of short-term guys will be focusing on that as there could be some volatility there. The other high beta tech names I talked about could be an area of focus also based on their recent movement. But in general, I think if you're a short-term trader, maybe you look to trade the open when there's still some volatility and liquidity, and then maybe you head for home, head for the beach, head for the mountains. Scott is out today. He's out Monday as well, so I'll be on the morning call with Brittany on Monday. Looking forward to that. But thank you for joining me for today's morning call. See you back here for the daily recap. Have a good day.